Good morning, students. Let's continue with 12th night. Today we'll be doing a different kind of a scene here. Just understand, Olivia, she is in love with Voila or Cesario. We already know that. Apart from that, Olivia has an uncle, right? He's Sir Toby Bledge, and he has got a friend, Sir Andrew. Now, he is Olivia's uncle and he always wanted Andrew to marry Olivia. So he was actually jealous that Olivia is in love with Cesario. Now, Olivia has got two servants here, Malvolio and Maria. Now, Malvolio, he thinks very high of himself. Though he's a servant, but he thinks that like he's the owner of the house, he's doing everything. So he's got that kind of an attitude. And that is why he even scolds his Olivia's uncle not to drink too much. Now Maria is a smart lady. She's working for Olivia, but she'll copy Olivia's handwriting and will send a letter to Malvolio saying that she loves him. He'll go and meet Olivia, and of course Olivia will scold him. They'll enjoy this funny thing. However, it's just for fun that they enjoy, and that's the end of it. Olivia, now Sir Toby, he knew that Olivia is in love with Cesario. So what he'll do, he'll arrange a fight between Sir Andrew and Voila to see who is more courageous, who's more brave, and just to find that who deserves Olivia. But when Voila and this Sir Andrew are about to fight, we all know that Voila is a girl, so she was scared. And before Sir Andrew could blow, on this girl, Antonio enters in and he saves Voila. Right, so that's the just summary of what I'll be reading today. Right, so let's continue. Okay, open to page number 60. Meanwhile, there were other things happening which we must now describe. Olivia had an uncle, Sir Toby Birch, who was fat and merry, means he was fat and always happy, and drank often and too much. For some time past, he had been trying to introduce his friend, Sir Andrew Aguichi, a wild, boastful and cowardly fellow, to Olivia. Now, for a long time, this uncle, Sir Toby, he wanted to introduce Sir Andrew to Olivia. This annoyed her very much, and Olivia, she didn't like Sir Andrew. She would have nothing to do with him. One day, Olivia's housekeeper, Malvolio, scolded Sir Toby for his drinking habits. Now, this Malvolio had such a very high opinion of himself that once Olivia herself remarked that he was sick of self-love. Everybody disliked him on the account of his pride. We are talking about the servant. So everyone hated him. Why? Because he was too proud. And Maria, Olivia's maid, hit on a very good plan to humble him. Now Maria, she had a plan to humble down Malvolio. She wrote a letter to Malvolio, copying her mistress's handwriting. In it, she made it appear that Olivia was in love with her housekeeper and had written the letter secretly to him. Right? So Maria, she wrote a letter in which she actually, pretended as if she was Olivia, and she's writing this letter to Malvolio in a secret manner. Malvolio found the letter which had been dropped in his way and fell completely into the trap. Now, Maria had made this whole plan, and Malvolio, without knowing that it's a trap, he fell into it. So when he went to see Olivia, he made a great fool of himself. So he must have, acted as a proud and kind of a person. He must have went to Olivia, and of course, he actually made a big fool of himself. Sir Toby Belch was pleased at this joke and wanted another. Now, who was happy here? Olivia's uncle. Why was he happy? Because the same servant, he used to say bad things or scold Olivia's uncle. So now he was happy that he made a fool of him. So he determined to play a trick on Sir Andrew Aguecheek and Voila. So what Sir Toby did, he thought of playing a trick between Sir Andrew and Voila. Sir Andrew had seen Voila when she last visited Olivia and was very jealous of the favors which had been shown to her. So Sir Toby was really jealous the way Olivia treated Voila and the kind of favors she showed towards him. So Olivia's uncle was not at all happy. Sir Toby had told him that he thought to have knocked Cesario down, and that Olivia scorned him for not doing so. Now, Sir Toby must have told Andrew that he wanted to hit Cesario, but Olivia has not allowed him to do so. He said that Sir Andrew must find some way of getting back the lady's favor. He played a trick. He told Andrew that you should do something in order to impress Olivia, and persuaded him that he must fight Cesario. He even told Andrew that he must fight Cesario in order to win Olivia's heart. So Sir Andrew, who was very courageous on paper, called on Voila to fight with him. So Sir Andrew was courageous, but only on papers, not a real courageous person. And because of that, because of Sir Toby, he called Voila for a fight, for a challenge. Voila was frightened. Why she was frightened? She's a girl. And Sir Toby increased her fear by telling her that Sir Andrew Aguecheek was a terrible man to fight with. And then he told his friend the same tale about Voila. So Sir Toby, what he did, he told Cesario or Voila that Sir Andrew was a very brutal kind of a fighter. And in the same way, he went to Sir Andrew and told about Voila that Voila is a very brutal kind of a person. So he frightened Sir Andrew nearly as much he had frightened the poor girl. The two, however, agreed to fight. Now there was no other option. So both of them somehow they agreed to fight, believing what Sir Toby told them. Though both were afraid of each other, as the fight was about to begin, and poor Voila was on the point of telling them that she was a woman, they were interrupted by a stranger who drew his sword, declaring that he would take up Voila's quarrel and fight anyone who attacked her. Now, Antonio entered in the scene when Sir Andrew was about to hit Voila. He entered in the scene by there's a reason. Voila was dressed as a boy, and Sir Andrew thought that Voila is Sebastian. You remember her twin brother? So he thought that maybe he's Sebastian, and that is why he entered into the fight. Right? The stranger was Antonio, who had come into the town in search of his friend Sebastian. Not minding the risk, he thus ran of being arrested. Seeing Voila in men's clothes, he mistook her for her brother Sebastian and ran forward to defend his friend. So he wanted to save Voila, as he thought that he might be Sebastian. Voila was surprised but much relieved at this timely help. Now Voila, she is a girl, so she was quite relieved that finally, thank God, somebody helped her. Okay. Almost at the moment, some officers of the prince came along and recognizing Antonio as the man they wanted, arrested him. Now, when this fight was taking place, some of the officials of the prince, they came, they recognized Antonio and they arrested him. Before they marched him off, he turned to Voila. Before they were taking Antonio away, he turned towards Voila and said, I must obey. This comes of my having come into the town to search for you. So he says, yes, see, I must obey. I'm arrested now, and it's all because I came here to search for you. He begged her, before he went, to give him back the purse he had lent to Sebastian when he went into the town. So he requested Voila to return his wallet, that wallet that he actually gave to Sebastian. Great was the puzzlement of Voila at being asked to return the purse of a man who she had never met before. Now she was quite puzzled and like surprised. How come this man is asking for a wallet when I do not have his purse with me? I do not even know him. But she offered the captain half the money she possessed, which was little enough, in return for the help he had so kindly given her. At this, Antonio was deeply hurt. Now, Antonio thought that how come Sebastian has taken my purse? I helped him and now he's not even returning my money. So he was hurt. His young friend had not only refused to give him back his purse, but even pretended not to recognize him. So what he felt that my friend is not recognizing me, and he's not. He's not also returning my purse. He told the officers that he had saved this young man's life, cared for him, given him his friendship, only to be insulted in return. But the officers were not interested in the story. They wanted him to go with them at once. And Antonio, still scolding Voila for her behavior and calling her Sebastian, was led away. Hearing herself addressed as Sebastian, Voila guessed that the captain had mistaken her for her brother, whom she now began to hope might be alive. Now, one thing was confirmed to Voila, that her brother is alive, and that is why Captain was calling her Sebastian. Okay? She would have liked to question Antonio, but he was gone. So she left the place at once, fearing that she might again be called upon to fight. So she just ran away from that place. Soon Sebastian, who was going about town, came to the place. Sir Andrew, seeing him, thought he was Cesario. I'm sorry. So by chance, Sebastian came to that same place where Voila was, and Sir, Andrew, he thought that he's Cesario. What he did, and remembering how weakly the boy had met his last attack, rushed at him and struck him on the head. Sebastian was no coward. Finding himself thus attacked by a stranger, he returned the blow several times, and drawing his sword, called upon the others to do the same. So he got really angry. Sebastian, he drew his sword and he fought with Sir Andrew. Finding himself thus, they had scarcely begun to fight when Olivia came out from her house. Seeing her dear Cesario, like she thought Sebastian is Cesario, in danger, she called upon the fighters to stop, and ordering Sir Andrew out of her sight, invited Sebastian into her house. So she called Sebastian into her house and she ordered Sir Andrew to get out of her sight. Now Sebastian was much surprised at the kindness shown him by a lady whom he had never seen before, but he followed her willingly into her house. Now Sebastian was actually surprised. He had never seen this lady before, but her kindness was really, she was so kind that he willingly followed her into her house. As, however, she began to speak loving words to him and to treat him as a dear friend, he began to wonder if he were asleep or dreaming. Now here Olivia thought that Sebastian is Voila, and that is why she started speaking in a manner, filled with love and kindness. So this is Sebastian, he thought that maybe he is dreaming. But if so, he found the dream sweet enough and hoped it might continue. He was really impressed by Olivia and her love and the way she was. It also occurred to him that the lady might be mad. Now even thought that maybe this lady is mad because she is in love with me, right? Yet she seemed not, but she was not. She gave orders to her servants in a reasonable manner and attended to the affairs of her house with sense. Only one thing could not be explained, her love for him. After a while, Olivia called a priest and proposed to Sebastian that they should be married that very hour. And Sebastian, in spite of his surprise, liked her so much that he agreed to her proposal. Now, Sebastian was not aware of the fact that Olivia is in love with his sister. So he somehow agreed. He thought, okay, of course, I can marry her. Sebastian, okay. Olivia promised him that the marriage should be kept secret just as long as he wished. So the ceremony was performed. Sebastian then left his wife to look for Antonio and to ask his advice on this curious affair. Meanwhile, Voila had returned to her master and told him that Olivia never wanted to hear his name again. Now Orsino felt that it was no use sending any more messengers to her, but that he himself must go and make a last attempt to win her love. So here, this person, this Orsino, he thought it is useless sending messengers. The best thing is that I should go and speak to her. So together with Voila and other members of his household, he set out for Olivia's house. So with his servants and everyone, he went to Olivia's house. When they arrived at the gates, they met a man who belonged there. Orsino bribed him a further sum of money if he succeeded. Orsino bribed him to go and beg his mistress to come out, promising him a further sum of money if he succeeded. The man hurried off to do so, while the prince and his party waited outside. As they stood there, the officers of the law who had captured Antonio came along the street with their prisoner. They were searching for the prince. When they saw him, they led Antonio up to him, saying that this was the man who had wounded his nephew, and that they had found him fighting in the street of the town, and had arrested him according to their orders. When Voila saw Antonio and heard the charge laid against him, she told her master what she already knew about him. She said how, when returning home, she had been attacked by a stranger, and how this man had drawn his sword to fight for her and saved her from her enemy. But that afterwards he had spoken strange words to her which she could not understand. Now Antonio still mistook Voila for his friend Sebastian. Okay, while they were waiting outside Olivia's house, the officers, they had this prisoner Antonio with them. They came to whom? They came to the prince and they told him that Antonio is the man who wounded your nephew, and apart from that, he is the same man who was fighting on the streets of this town. Now Antonio was there, and Voila, she at once recognized Antonio and told the prince that while she was on her way back, a stranger attacked him, and Antonio was the one who saved her. So she said that till the time it was all good, but after that he started saying some strange words. So she was actually telling the prince the fact that happened, but she actually hid the fact that Sir Andrew is the one who attacked her, right? So just do one thing, read it till page number 66, right? We'll continue with the second last para of this story, and I'm sure we'll finish this story in the next video. Just go through it, read it, revise it. We have read a lot today, and I want you to read it at home. Please do not just ignore the lesson. It will be difficult for you to understand the story then. Right, so it's a long story. You need to go through it nicely. Right? And regarding the question and answers, we'll discuss in the next video. No problem. We'll discuss and you can do it. Right? So please remember this part. If you want, you can even write it somewhere in rough so that the things are clear to you. So this is how everything happened. whatever we have done right now. I hope that is enough, right? Okay, then the rest I'll make in the next video. Thank you.